And I know K-N-O frickin' W that chiropractic all by itself, right care plan, right technique, nothing else getting in the way, is capable of creating more unbelievable, indescribable miracles than anything else. All right, chiropractors and chiropractic students, welcome to the Family Practice Podcast. You know, the one you've been waiting way too long for, because this podcast will actually stay focused on chiropractic, not only what it takes to get world-class clinical results for kids and families in your community, but also what it takes to build a legendary, incredible family practice that takes care of your family way beyond your dreams. I'm Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be joined by Dr. Matt Hill, Dr. Ellie Wright, Jackie Jakubowicz, and incredible guests, chiros, associates, CAs, all these folks making massive impact around the world. We're going to cover everything: pediatric, perinatal, family practice. This is the podcast you've been waiting for, because moms and dads and families have always needed us. Now they're finally ready for us. I hope you're ready for the Family Practice Podcast. Let's go. Okay, go back to the beginning, everybody. You got into pediatric, perinatal, and family chiropractic. And maybe you didn't start with those descriptors. Maybe you just got into chiropractic, period, because you knew you had to help people without drugs. You learned about how the nervous system, maybe it was a spinal model, but from the spinal model, you learned all about the nervous system, and you're like, OMG, that's it. Scientifically, they've got the answers. The art. Have you seen what happens to people's eyes? Maybe you're a chiropractor because your health was fully transformed by getting adjusted, right? And then you really know this. I could bet you, now I know some do, but the ones that are really tapped into something like this, like they're really looking to have a family practice, you are all in for chiropractic because you actually really love the philosophy, and you look at it and you go, that's me, that's what I want to do. So then you get to it. Then you get after it. Then you get into practice, and you're called, your heart, your soul, everything you want to do is serve kids, serve pregnant moms, and have a family practice. But there's one big, huge subluxation. There's one big problem and obstruction in our way. School doesn't teach us anything about pediatric, perinatal, and family practice. The board exams, all four freaking parts of those, awful. How did we survive? It's amazing we're still alive on the other side of part 3. Those board exams, they don't ask you any questions. They send you in none of this direction, right? So we have this dream. We have this desire to be incredibly skillful at adjusting and taking care. So let's say clinical conversation. Write it down right now and know this. We're training on clinical results. This isn't a marketing topic. This isn't a leadership topic. This isn't, it absolutely is a practice growth topic, because I don't care how good you are at marketing or scripts or screening, you'll be found out if you don't get kids better. This is a get kids better, here's how conversation. I'm going to present it to you first in the 3 most common mistakes that we make across the board as a pediatric chiropractic profession. And you can call them mistakes, you can call them problems, and you can kind of get a negative lens about this. And you can go, ooh, that's a bit punchy. No, it's not. It's neuroscience. And it's 20 years almost of clinical experience and teaching thousands of other chiropractic students, startups, and practicing chiropractors what actually gets the job done to get kids better. That's all this conversation is. So I'm going to start, and that's the title. These are the 3 mistakes, but we're only going to look at it through that lens so we can get you to the other side of it and say, here's how you fix it. Here's what you do about it. Because if you stay stuck with any one of these 3, if you stay limited, subluxated with your skill set, with your practice, and how you do any one of these 3, the results that kids and families under your care are going to get are less than they would be if you crushed all 3. So that's not on me. That's not, in a lot of ways, it is now, once you learn about these. Getting to this point, it's not on you either. I'm telling you, it's important to take a deep breath here and realize that net foundationally, this isn't really our fault. Our profession's pretty darn jacked up, right? That we got our own perfect storm that we could apply that concept to chiropractic. And where does it begin? Oh, you know, in utero during chiropractic school, where they send us down one way, which is the same as not sending us down this road. So we know that practicing chiropractors more than anything don't want to compete for back pain, don't want to just see spinal injuries and soft tissue and sports stuff. We know that we want to see full families, but we have very little pediatric training. There's very few coaches and practice management groups, if any, any outside of PX who actually teach you that model, right? So you could look at it on business lens and say, okay, well, even if I'm clinically skilled, like if I crush all three of these on this podcast, particular episode, what do I do about the business? That's why we do a bunch of episodes about that too within the family practice. And then there's still one more subluxation that is really holding this profession back in the pediatric chiropractic lane. The vast majority outside of the PX Cert program, because I took them, so I know. So I'm not speaking from like, I just went on their website. Well, actually, you could do this too. You go on the website, you could look at the curriculum and be like, why is there so much not chiropractic stuff? Why are they so obsessed with primitive reflexes and nutrition and family wellness and all these other sort of biomedical, functional neuro, actually not even functional neuro, more functional medicine sort of interventions. So most of the pediatric chiropractic postgraduate training nowadays, outside of the world that I live in, it focuses more on those things than it does these three things. These three levers are all chiropractic. This is the Family Practice Podcast. This is Dr. Tony Ebel teaching you. So this is a fully principled, congruent, neurologically focused, subluxation-based clinical care plan. There you go, care plan. Clinical excellence conversation. You don't do these three things, your clinical results aren't going to be the same as a practicing pediatric, perinatal, and family chiropractor who does. So here's what I want you to have as a mental buy-in to this episode. It doesn't matter where you are or are not yet when it comes to these three essential clinical skill sets and levers. And it doesn't matter whether school took you off course, didn't teach you this. What we need to do is be done with that and ready for these three mistakes to no longer be made within the four walls of our practices. Because when you master these three things, it changes kids' lives at a level you've never, and parents. This is actually just clinical chiropractic to its core with these three things. These carry more weight than anything else you could do clinically. They're not what most people teach and what most people think. It's like, what technique do I need to learn? And then what do I add to my practice in addition to chiropractic to get better results and take on tough cases? And I will tell you this, addition is not addition when it comes to clinical results. It will dilute them, distract them, and make them worse. So what I want you to know is no matter where you are, you work on these three things. Good night subluxation, good night sickness and struggling in your patient population, and hello freaking life transformation. And when you do that for people, full families, your practice erupts and explodes. So not really a business practice growth conversation, but it is in the same breath. Number one clinical mistake that holds pediatric chiropractors back from getting world-class results with even the sickest, toughest, most neurologically complex of cases, weak care plans. Let's see how it goes. Let's not overwhelm them. They're so busy, they're new, they don't get it yet. So we'll just start 2 times a week for 6 weeks and let's see how it goes. Oh, I got one. No, maybe not 2 times a week. Maybe that's not enough. These kids are pretty subluxated these days. You know, we look at birth trauma, we look at vaccines. I think they're pretty subluxated. Why don't I go 3 times a week for 4 weeks? 2 times a week for 6 weeks, 1 time a week for 12 weeks, and then monthly maintenance. And what a child whose subluxation pattern spits out autism says to that care plan is, nice try, bruh. Didn't even put a dent in this nervous system dysregulation, dysautonomia, dyskinesis, dysfunction, disconnection, distortion, developmental diastasis, developmental delays, and brain damage that I got working up in here. That's what that kid's nervous system would say if it could speak, but that kid's locked into level 3 autism. And if you give a 2 times a week for 6 weeks care plan to a level 3 autism, or a 3-2-1, that's for practice management and insurance purposes, BT-dub, care plan for a kid with that, or a burnt out, exhausted mom, or a not yet mom who's struggling through fertility challenges, or honestly, a COVID baby whose nervous system and dysautonomia as measured by HRV is so tanked that 2 times a week, and this is heartbreaking, what I have to teach you about all 3 of these levels is actually not going to be fun for me. This sucks. This truth that I know and I teach neuroscientifically sucks. That kids are that subluxated, that dysautonomic, that dysregulated, and that subluxation is buried that deep that care plans from even a decade or 2 ago don't hold a candle to it. I've increased our care plans. Dr. Matt and I are kind of the purveyors of this. We have increased our care plans at PwC significantly over and over again 3 to 5 years ago. You guys, this episode, this conversation is for me. This episode is for PwC. Be the doctor. This has care planning needs to. So let me get into it, because right, so that's the biggest, and I hope I hit you right in your heart and your soul. I hope you know that you've been underselling these kids. I hope you know that you've been underselling chiropractic. I hope you know that when they don't transition to wellness, it's because you wussed out on the care plan. I hope you know when they stop showing up and they ghost you, it's not because they got busy, it's because they didn't get better. That's a tough reality to face in practice, but if you don't face it, how do you fix it? And so that's why we're there to have that conversation today. So let's continue to learn how to fix this by real quick getting a little bit more detailed and lengthening our list of what not to do. You cannot make a care plan that you think insurance will cover and then take it from there. You cannot make a care plan that you think they can afford because you think you know how they make socioeconomic financial decisions. You cannot make a care plan that is watered down, diluted, and lowered because you don't believe in your ability to communicate and articulate the value of that child not being seen twice a week. What if they actually need twice a day, 3 times a week, daily? How do you sleep at night if you sit across the reported findings desk and tell a parent to put their child on a care plan that is less than the one you put your kid on? So that's our mark. Number 1, take that whole list and let's reverse it. You tell them not what insurance will cover and not what you think they can afford. You literally only, every time, every patient for the rest of your career, you tell them exactly to the T, neurologically, what they need. Now, let's take that word, neurologically. How do I know? Well, that's where your training comes in. Have you taken any advanced postdoctorate training on care planning? Y'all, I got 2 different postgraduate chiropractic school, not a single bit of pediatric adjusting, not a single bit of care planning, not a single bit of case management, not a single bit of anything pediatric. So wanting that practice, pediatric, prenatal, and family practice, I sign up for both of the most common, before PX showed up and is blown up, certifications that are out there. One of them was 15 different weekends that I sat in a seminar all day Saturday and Sunday morning away from my family. 15 times in a row. I had a baby girl that first 2 years of practice, and it was so hard to sit in these seminars. Half of them weren't chiropractic. The half of the chiropractic that I was going to use seemed very outdated to me. The whole thing was very discombobulated. There's no through line, no golden thread, no implementation, no action, no communication training, and there was no care planning and case management training. So I want you to know that when you hear this with care planning and you feel this and you go, I need to fix this more than anything else, the actual neurologically focused training I need to get you to really master care planning for kids, fertility patients, pregnant moms, and full families. It's going to go a little bit beyond the scope of this podcast, but I want you to be more obsessed with that. Then when I get to number 2 and we start talking about pediatric chiropractic techniques, and we get to number 3 and we start talking about not adding in extras, those are essential lessons. But I want you all, from practicing chiropractor who's been there, was stuck, didn't sleep well when I knew I was underselling chiropractic. Guys, I didn't have any care planning training. So I'm not judging you. Please don't feel that. I am as empathetic, compassionate, and obsessed with teaching care planning as probably pretty much anything else on the docket. That's why I'm at this level intentionally, strategically, so you can change these kids' lives with chiropractic, because it's not the power of an adjustment that creates miracles. It's the power of adjustments, and you got to nail the frequency. So what's a care plan? Let's get into it. A care plan is getting the right frequency and the duration. Now, when it comes to frequency, and you get a little, when should I step it down? That doesn't matter at all if you don't get the first initial frequency right first. See, subluxation isn't static. Subluxation has a massive head start on you. So if you think 1 to 2 times a week for this level of subluxated population is going to even put a dent in the negative, if you don't know momentum from a neuroscientific, philosophical, chiropractic conversation, make that your obsession too. Studying the neurophysiology, kind of really neuroplasticity, see from a chiropractic landscape of what momentum really is. And when your patients start out under care with you, momentum is against you, not for you. The initial frequency of the care plan is to just get the nervous system finally moving in the right direction. It's pushing a boulder up a hill. So putting little bits of effort isn't going to move very far, if at all. You have to put more effort in up front, not from adjusting. I'll come back to this with number 2. You can't just flying 7 them. You can't just shotgun adjust, because that's what comes from weak, watered down care plans. What happens if you miss out on the care plan, which is literally problem number 1 that limits your clinical results, you can't do anything about it. So what do? You know innately, and I'm literally teaching a lot of you right now, and it's kind of just ripping you up on the inside, but that's good, because subluxation is ripping up kids in your community on the inside, literally neurologically. So lean into this one and get better with me. I had to face the music on this one too, and when I did, it meant everything. Because here's what we do. We compound this mistake. When we wuss out on a care plan, we over-adjust. So we do too many segments, too many adjustments on the visit, because we're like, oh, this kid's sick, and this baby's crying. You over-adjust. This kid's locked into autism, you over-adjust. This kid's got chronic gut issues and ear infections, you over-adjust. That's mistake number 1. That comes from, actually it's mistake number 2, right? Once you wuss out on the care plan, you open up the likelihood of making that other mistake, over-adjusting, and then another third mistake, over-adding other things. See, what happens across pediatric and family practices that aren't PX all over the profession is it becomes real easy to be like, oh, I better sell them some vitamins and some supplements and some probiotics, and here, put garlic oil in there, and here's these essential oils, and then you need to do your primitive reflex. Oh, I know why your kid's not getting better. They must not be doing their exercises. They must not be disciplining their kid right. They must not be feeding their kid right. They must not be fit and active enough. They must still be vaccinating their kid. They must still use chemicals in their laundry. We blame them for our lack of clinical results instead of looking at what we can control and what we can handle to transform their lives. My mama taught me, Mrs. Rhonda Ebel taught me that if I point my finger at my stupid brother, Brett, by the way, shout out to Above Down Apparel and Well-Aligned Products. Go ahead. There you go, brother. I'm making fun of you while giving you a shout out for your 2 incredible chiropractic subluxation-based principled companies. If you don't have well-aligned posters on your wall and you don't use well-aligned folders and handouts, you're missing out on a much more effective branding, marketing, and patient education conversation. And if you're not rocking Above Down swag and rocking a t-shirt or an Expect Miracles or Hope Dealer flat bill hat right now, and you haven't been on Above Down's Instagram or website, what's up with y'all? You got to get that gear. You got to get that swag. You got to get after it. So when I would point my finger at this moron who now owns those 2 awesome chiropractic companies, non-chiropractor, but he serves us that way, my mom would say, okay, if you're pointing one finger at him, there's 3 fingers pointing at you. What's your role? What could you do to have prevented this and made this better? That's what we got to do with care planning. Be the doctor. Back to the word neurologically. When I said earlier, and I hope you wrote it down, your care plans need to be based not upon what they can afford, not how busy. What's the biggest excuse? It's not finances. They're too busy. If they tell you we can't afford it, if they tell you we can't get here that often, and that's why you're wussing out on care plans, you don't go lower, you go higher on your certainty, your conviction, your clarity, your communication abilities, and your examination. What do you have to show them? This is neurologically what you need. Scans dictate plans. I just got done without any plan whatsoever of giving a shout out to my brother and his companies, Well-Aligned Products and Above Down. Now, the most important shout out right here is if you don't have a Chiropractic Leadership Alliance, CLA, Insight Scanning Subluxation Station, will you please go to their website? I'll have the team put in the show notes and book a discovery call with them. You have to investigate. I'm saying it, have to. You need this technology to care plan appropriately. If you're not measuring the exact level of neurological dysfunction, aka subluxation, what are you basing a care plan on? You're either basing a care plan on A, everybody gets the same thing, B, this is what I think they'll afford or insurance will cover, C, this is what my practice management told me to do, we give this plan to everybody, or D, which is where really most of those first 3 come from, so it's just another version of it, or D, It's a symptom-based care plan. You're going to keep them at 3 times a week till little baby starts to feel better. A little less burperooskies, a little more farting, a little more pooping, a little more sleeping. And then you're going to be like, oh, they're getting better. We'll back off of care. Cool. That's a medical treatment-based care plan, not chiropractic. So I didn't know any better in my early stages. I had the Insight scanner. I knew how to do an in-depth subluxation-based analysis and examination, but I didn't exactly know how to tie that numerically, neurologically, to the care plan. Guess what a care plan has in it? Math, metrics. Guess what Dr. Fletcher, when he took over CLA and now is the chief wizard officer and CEO of CLA and the Insight Scan, #1 teacher, #1 mentor, he changed all the reporting of the Insight Scans to have the core score, to have individual metrics. So when Dr. Fletcher, about a decade ago, probably maybe a little over, took that on and made our lives so much easier to communicate, interpret, but mainly care plan based upon scans, aka subluxation of the nervous system, what Dr. Matt and I did with PX is we took that one step further and we actually built a PX care plan builder that is not based upon symptoms. It is based entirely upon analysis, assessment, and what we call neurometrics of the subluxation, dysautonomia, and nervous system dysfunction. And so that's a lot right there. That was worthy of its own episode, just talking about care plans. And I gotta tell you, that's a starter conversation. From PX, we are literally, I don't like to talk about myself or ourselves, but I will tell you the truth because I took all the other seminars and I still stay in touch with whatever people are learning everywhere else. We are the only ones in pediatric chiropractic who are teaching care planning in a congruent, neurologically focused neuroplastic model. And we're the only ones with a plug and play care plan model. So if you don't know how to do it yet, I get it. I feel you. I was you. And that's why we built our PX Cert program. And one of the full main miracle making modules in that is where we teach you in detail how to use the PX Care Plan Builder. And it is fully trademarked, or whatever the term is, protected for PX offices early because it requires you also master #2 and #3. So the second biggest mistake that pediatric chiropractors make that hold them back from getting clinical results is they get stuck using one singular technique. Just in case, my whole neurologically practice-based, scientifically proven, shouldn't be at all, but probably was, controversial conversation around care plans didn't poke the chiro bear just enough. Let's ruffle the bear's feathers. Boy, I'm mixing animal analogies, but that's what I love to do on the podcast. That's what I love to do in practice too. I love to use such rando analogies and metaphors that people are like, oh, that totally makes sense. And then 2 seconds later, they're like, huh? Does it though? What did he just say? It makes practice way more fun. And I think it makes their experience way more fun. So let's poke the bear's ruffled feathers and let's just go ahead and talk technique. Because that doesn't tick chiropractors off at all. That's not why we separate into separate clubs during school and only sit with people at that club and only go out for margaritas on that club. And why our softball team had, the name of our softball team at the rec league had technique in it. And that's why we only go to those chiropractic technique seminars and we only sign up for management groups that teach us to use that scientifically proven research-backed technique. And we just stay here. And this is our camp and I don't talk to anybody else, but I do judge you. Because you're not Gonstead, and I am. You're not Thompson, and I am. You're not TRT, and I am. You're not upper cervical, and I am. And this, along with quite a few others, holds us back so much. So let's be done giving a crap about us as chiropractors. We'll have to fix our issues down the road. Let's just get kids better. So when I say it holds us back as chiropractors, I don't really care about that's not the right way to say it. I very much care about bringing us together. Shout out to my boy Baron and Chiro One and the Chiropractic Defense Council. If you don't know all about that, please get involved with that. We freaking need unity. We need to support each other. We need to respect and honor the contrast between our different approaches. But those are the key words: respect and honor and appreciate it. Do you know how many times we refer from PwC each month to other chiropractors? We don't deal with disc issues. We don't have decompression. We don't have a Cox flexion distraction table. Speaking of techniques, none of our techniques are really good. I mean, we can handle the basic ones, but we refer to other chiropractors all the time for other specialties and they refer to us. Now, I don't want to go too far off track. Let's get into the technique conversation. The number one way when it comes to care plans, as we just taught, to get kids better is to know that plural is better than singular. More adjustments, higher frequency over long duration is a better plan than not having enough. How simple is that, right? To kind of put a bow on number one and use that as a segue into number two. Since when have we proven that adhering to one singular technique system and making every single one of our patients, who certainly have unique, quite different subluxation patterns and clinical presentations, why? Let's just actually leave it on us, sir. Let's just look at it from a 30,000 foot view. Let's not dive too deep yet. Wouldn't kind of just this general theory get us start thinking like, I wonder if I had more tools, not other therapies, not other treatments, and we're not talking soft wave, we're not talking white label my own probiotics, we're talking about more chiropractic technique tools in our toolkit. Wouldn't that increase the likelihood of us being able to get more better results with more different types of patients because they have different types of subluxation patterns and so forth? So again, this is one of those conversations we really preach and teach within PX because I have a story that fits perfectly from where most of us are stuck. I can tell you my story as to who Dr. Mike Cody and Dr. Fletcher got me unstuck to where now our practice gets such clinical results with a multitude of techniques, not a single technique that we make everybody get. We are not world renowned for our fill in the blank technique and have people flying from Dubai or South Africa or London or all these different places to get care. They're coming for the totality of our clinical results, which start with care planning and include a multitude of techniques. So let me use my story to get this one across here. When I started out, my experience in undergrad as a patient was with one of the finest, to me, the greatest Gonstead chiropractor on this earth, Dr. Rick Elbert in Ames, Iowa. That man was so masterful in his philosophy, in his examination. X-rays, he was an early insight scan user, which is why I've had such a wonderful blessing to only know that. His examination, his X-ray analysis, his nervoscope, his insight scans, his palpation, static and motion palpation. The man used the Gonstead system, teaches the Gonstead system. Not only adjusting, but case management is really what he's a guru at. So that's also why I probably go back to number one. I'm obsessed. I only had masterful chiropractors who understand the art of care planning was as important as the art of adjusting. And Dr. Rick is just a masterful, world-class Gonstead chiropractor. So when you drive across, you do not stop at Iowa City and you end up in Davenport. What Dr. Rick Elbert told me was, all right, young man, I want you to know that at Palmer, you're going to be attending Troxel, Gonstead Club, and if you do a rotary break, so supine cervical, which is what Gonstead rock stars call a supine cervical. If I find out, and I will, because I have people at Palmer, that you move one bone with a rotary break before you can set C7 in the chair, I will find out. And then he just stayed silent, you guys. So what I did is I became obsessed with Gonstead adjusting only. Keyword only. Sound familiar to your story? Just insert your mentor, insert your experience. And it wasn't even a problem for me. I didn't think anything of it for a freaking decade. Are you kidding me? Like, this man changed my life. When he adjusted me, all of my challenges, I'll leave those for another story. My life got significantly better at a time that it really wasn't going well. And you think, Tony seems like he's always been happy. Not at this moment in my life. It was a real tough moment in my life when God sent me down the road of chiropractic, not just to go to school, but to be Dr. Rick's patient and get my first seated cervical Atlas rocked. The lights came on for the first time. I'll never forget it. And they've never gone back off. And the Gonstead technique system of analysis, case management, and adjusting, man, you put that up against any other technique in the world and you make me choose, let's go. C7 in the chair, sayonara. I'll adjust your grandmother's osteoporotic T5 seated cervical and it's going to be freaking glorious, okay? I can get after it, Gonstead. I have the most amount of respect and reverence in the world for that entire technique system. And I'm belaboring this point with my story because you live this life too, and you have to get it at this level. You got to feel it for me to be able to teach it effectively with how I need to move you to the other side of this one with number two. Then I go on my internship at Dr. Mike Cody in Fox River Grove. Grew up Gonstead as well. Large man. He could move a bone, quote unquote, right? It's all about the nervous system, but use that term. He could move a bone a country mile without even hardly trying. And I watch him do leg checks. I watch him do integrator. I watch him do sustained contact. I watch him do Tago. I had no problem against Tago. I'm a Palmer graduate. And I watch him do all of this light force tonal work in addition to HVLA. And I'm going through this whole 4, 5, 6 month internship with Dr. Mike. And every time I'm like, dude, why'd you adjust that? Why'd you adjust that? Why'd you chew that? What's the chiropractic student question? What technique do you use? And hey, can you teach it to me? And I could just tell that Dr. Mike had this system. He had this system of subluxation-based analysis that didn't just help him find, and I'm granular, I want you to write this down. Dr. Mike Cody taught me number 2 better than anybody. He is the person who changed this for me. God rest him. We miss him. He's up in heaven. And I hope they have this podcast up there. And I hope I'm doing even a little bit of reverence to you, Dr. Albert, Dr. Cody, Dr. Fletcher, and all my mentors. I hope that the work we do in our practice every single day, and I hope the work that we do through PX, this podcast, our CERT program, I hope that it honors you for all that you've given to me. I miss Mike. So when I would watch Dr. Mike, the wizard, the greatest clinical adjusting wizard I've ever seen in my life, ever, and I've been around all the best. When I watched him adjust, he chose not just the segment, not just the primary, the major subluxation. I could tell that he knew the exact line of drive he needed to go at. I could tell he knew the exact torque, clockwise or counterclockwise, he needed to go at. And I could tell he knew the exact amount of speed, amplitude, and depth that he needed to go at. Now that's where I got really granular with you, and we do this for literally hours at our CERT seminar. And it's those last 2 elements that kind of categorize a technique as quote unquote manual, HVLA. I love when students are like, I'm tonal, not osseous. Well, osseous chiropractors are neurological and tonal chiropractors are neurological too. It's all about the nervous system. It's just how we address it and adjust it. And those last elements have a lot to do with the effectiveness of your adjustment based upon not your school, not your mentor, not your technique, and not your preference as the adjusting chiropractor. The effectiveness of that adjustment, and now we're going to boil it all the way down to simple, as to whether you go after it, you add a lot of amplitude and a lot of depth, and it would categorize an HVLA, or you barely go at all, and you're very light, and you've been hanging out with Papa Marv, and you're just getting through that window, and it doesn't look like, feel like much is happening. Yet those that bring the hammer, what do they do for their patients? They get the majority of them better. Those that barely do anything, integrator, light force, sustained contact, Logan, SOT, real light. I mean, you choose to fill in many blanks that could go with this. I don't choose to bring anyone into it for anything other than you have the hammer and you have real light. And if you've been around chiropractic at all, you know that both get the majority of their patients better. I'm done with point number 2 by pulling out one more word and teaching you here on this podcast that I hope is blowing your mind as to how simple this stuff is, but yet how powerful and how frustrating. Like, how come nobody taught us this, right? This is kind of hard to argue against stuff. The word is majority. When I got into practice, what I knew best, because I'd been studying it for 3.5 years, was Gonstead. The light force, shout out to Dr. Hoffman and Dr. Holder. So I went and took all these tonal techniques and I got an integrator. But when I first got into practice, I really wasn't comfortable with using it. So what did I default to? Palmer package, Gonstead. I went back to home base. What happened is the majority of my patients got better. But do you know who didn't? My real passion, highly wound, what I call raging bull, stuck into autism, stuck into ADHD, stuck into sensory, stuck into seizures. So my most sympathetic dominant, super wound, super overdrive, super not tight, like muscle tight, neurotone, peaked, revved up too much. It didn't work well to hit them with the hammer. And so what I learned is what Dr. Cody had learned, and maybe because he wasn't a man of many words, maybe he didn't really verbally teach it to me in the way that I was looking to learn it, but that doesn't matter because I saw it happen. I saw his wizardry and I saw his results coming from him being able to choose the right technique system, not based upon his club, his school, his mentor, based upon what the patient needs. Now, what does that really mean? Based upon the subluxation pattern that is before you. So the most advanced clinical Jedi, subluxation annihilating, miracle transformation catalyst creating chiropractors among us do not adhere to a singular technique. We know when to bring the heat. We know when to back off. We know how to mix techniques. Yep, I'm a mixer of techniques. It has to do with their stage of subluxation and neurological dysautonomia. It has to do with the specifics of that particular segment or subluxation. And I actually spent a long time on that, getting pretty detailed and granular with that. And I need to tell you one more time, just like with care planning and the PX Care Plan Builder, y'all, if you are loving this episode more than any chiropractic podcast episode you've ever learned, because you're a clinical chiropractic obsessed person who can't get enough of this, and you're not yet fully certified through our PX program, guys, I don't know, this is probably going to end up just about an hour, just short of an hour by the time we're done with these 3 clinical mistakes. I got 80 hours for you. There's 60 hours online, and then it's a 20-hour in-person seminar that completes. You got to go through the online modules first, where it's myself, Dr. Fletcher, Dr. Matt. We'd have Dr. Cody on there if he was still with us teaching. I'd make him teach this stuff because he was so damn good at it. And truly masterful results come from everything I'm teaching you here on this podcast episode. And then I just got to tell you, yes, consider this a point blank, right smack in your face commercial to sign up for our CERT course and our adjusting seminar, because we teach this at a depth that I can't quite go into with this podcast, but you need to have to really, truly, fully master this. Number 3, I always say this when I get into an episode or I get into a talking point, and I rarely do it, but I know how long I've already been teaching these first 2 crucial. Got to have them, got to know them, got to be excellent at them, clinical lovers. Let me teach you number 3 and try and be a little more brief to respect your time. Adding in extras too soon, especially. So things like primitive reflexes, things like supplements, things like diet changes, definitely things like detox kits, chelation, so forth. Even PT, OT, movement-based therapies, much of anything. You got a question, you're like, what else is this referred to? You say it, I mean it. Adding in anything not named chiropractic, I got to real quick double back, specifically on the right care plan, choosing the right technique for the right subluxation each and every single time. Adding in that kind of chiropractic, anything other than that, added in, especially early, before the nervous system has adaptability and resiliency, instead of dysregulation, exhaustion, overwhelm, and overload. Guys, you can't build a neurological house upon the sand. Subluxation is the most disconnecting, disrupting, disorganized thing that a child or a patient's nervous system could ever have. Even if all those things are good on paper, diet changes, supplements, magnesium, getting exercise in, right? MNRI, primitive reflex work, cranial even fits into this. Like, shout out to Dr. Rosen and Dr. Jake and the Peak Potential. If you want to learn cranial and you want to learn SOT, that's where you go. They're the best because they understand you're not going up north until you've taken care of the whole neurospinal system. You've got to have the nervous system clear. That's a chiropractic word. We've changed it to stable. You got to have a strong foundation neurologically before you start to add in all these other bells and whistles and party tricks that the rest of the holistic, functional, biomedical world loves to say are getting at the root cause. Well, the majority of my patients come in having done all that. Many of them have even seen a ton of other chiropractors who don't really care plan and don't really adjust. Why would they still come to our office if all of those other interventions done all at the same time, really key component there, got the job done? They wouldn't need us to do the job because the job would already be done. So there's so much practice-based experience I can lean on here to teach you and really prove to you that number 3 is so true clinically. And there's so much neuroscience, the foundational neurological hierarchy, nervous system, then motor system, then gut, then immune, then brain, right? There's so much parent experience that I could share with you because every day I'm not only adjusting kids and taking care of families, but I'm taking new intakes. And I'm learning that in this season where people are getting access. First, I get education and understanding. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Google, ChatGPT, and other podcasts. They're learning all about these other non-chiropractic interventions. And parents, unfortunately, are super desperate to do anything to help. And a parent's default setting is kind of the same as probably ours, as doctors, chiropractors especially, who love wellness, who love functional this, who love integrated that, who love supplement this, who love new device this. Why do we love it so much as chiropractors? Why don't we just love chiropractic more? Why don't we just do chiropractic more? Care plan. Why don't we just do chiropractic better? Technique, selection, and specificity. If we just did chiropractic more and more better, wouldn't we need less added to chiropractic to get more better results? Now that's the most Tony, Iowa, English conversation you've probably ever heard me say. Like, that's a clip right there. If you do in your practice, I promise you, if you get better at care planning, which will require you to be more certain and more skilled as a communicator, if you get better at adding to your technique toolbox and you know which technique to choose when for what and which particular subluxation pattern, I know that's nerdy. There's a lot to that, but fall in love with that because it's where truly incredible results for all of your patients come from. And then we did just those two things. We wouldn't even need to have this conversation at number 3. You'd be so busy doing chiropractic alone. Your practice would be so world-renowned for doing chiropractic alone that you wouldn't need stem cells, shockwave, supplements, primitive reflexes. Why are primitive reflexes retained? Because subluxation is first. Why is the cranial system likely so significantly distorted when you first take a look at it? Take a look what's happening at C1, C2, and occiput, and the transitional zones within the neurospinal system. And usually the cranial system is just compensating and following suit for what's happening in that central processing, where subluxation first foundationally primarily sets up shop. I could go on for another 30 minutes, another 30 hours about this. Unfortunately, all my postgraduate education basically told me, hey, you already adjust them, add this, do that. So what did I also do in the beginning of my practice? I did all of it. I had a sensory gym. We ran, stools. We had a nutrition. I didn't do it. We had a nutritionist come in. We did all this. So I can close it down with this. Come back to what the key term within this number 3 is. Adding in extra not chiropractic things too soon will disrupt the apple cart. The kid's already dysregulated, they're already overwhelmed, they're already subluxated, they're already exhausted. Even if it's all good, the best formulations, the best products, the best supplements, the best whatever, it ain't gonna do any good. And it has one of 2 likely results that you don't want because those parents don't want. Either one, you'll actually override the adjustments and you'll actually mute and basically kind of rob Peter to pay Paul. And you would have gotten better chiropractic adjustments with adjusting alone if you'd just let it have clean space, okay? And have a clean runway. So 1, you might actually cause your patients to plateau and get less better on a slower pace and less trajectory the more you add in. That's what my clinical experience was. My first 2-3 years, but until I got certified by all those other programs that taught me all these other bells and whistles and to mess around with all this other party trick stuff, I only knew how to adjust. So I did, and I did no care planning, so I did that. And I've gotten better at all of it, but kids got better. And then I added more to my practice, and kids got less better. So it was really easy for me to see and really easy for me to teach. This is true, okay? The other option is they might actually get worse. Practitioners often today, because not only do parents have the default setting of more's better, right? What if we're the people giving them that setting? You know what you need to do? You need to get this care plan. You need to add these primitive reflexes. You need to take these supplements. You need to do a diet change, get that gluten out of there, get casein out of there. Add this, do this, add this, do that. How's that nervous system that is so subluxated and dysregulated going to handle that? So often the detox, the regressions, and the plateaus that we see with tough cases clinically, they're on us. Not having all 3 of these core clinical levers in spades and dialed in. So in closing, it's how you're wiring, how you're going to take this. I went down both roads that are kind of the polar opposites. I gave you all the mistakes that come from these 3 common mistakes. I gave you kind of all the what not to do's. And then I gave you all here's how you fix them. Here's how you move forward and take action. And I know that some people learn, they're like, I got to stop doing this. And then the answer is 180 opposite, right? And other people learn like, hey, can you teach me how to do this? We absolutely can. I gave you all I possibly could, talking fast. If you're watching on YouTube, using my hands like crazy. I gave you all I could to get the best I can teach on this platform, on this podcast where you have my words, or again, if you're on YouTube, my hands only. I've got all sorts of neuroscience, research, case studies. Oh my gosh, the way we teach this stuff in the CERT course, only we teach it. Nobody touches this stuff. There's other certifications that actually their main calling card is the opposite of all this. They love to add everything else in and teach you to be a jack of all trades instead of a master of one. That's okay. That's the path that God called them to do. That's what they love to do in their practice, so that's what they do. I love chiropractic. I know chiropractic, and I know KNO-W, that chiropractic all by itself, right care plan, right technique, nothing else getting in the way, is capable of creating more unbelievable, indescribable miracles than anything else. You got to do more of it, care plan. You got to do more better, technique. And you got to leave it alone and stay in your lane. And the miracles come from that lane more than any other one. Hey, Dr. Tony here, and I wanted to say thank you for listening to the Family Practice Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a thing. Also, if you're looking for more content from us, you can absolutely subscribe to our newsletter, watch exclusive episodes on YouTube, and dive deep into the articles and blogs on our website. All of this is linked in today's show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.